Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. Mac, one of the crazier weekends that I can remember, with so much on the line, teams losing, but also getting into the ACC championship. It's just absolutely wild weekend, Mac. First things first, I want to make sure that you survived Blacksburg, that you aren't just frozen to death. I felt for you guys. Y'all looked very cold.
It was allegedly the second coldest game in Hokie history, which honored to be a part of it. Don't ever want to do it again. That was nuts. It was one of those colds, KG. Like, it hurt. It hurt being outside. And all those fans did it. All those players did it. Whatever. I get it. Suck it up, because we're in nice big jackets, but it was cold. It was really cold. And the wind was, when it would whip, you're just like, oh gosh, this is brutal. Crazy weekend. It's so funny how football will give and take away. Literally a week ago from today, we're recording a podcast and we are ecstatic. Everything's fallen into place. The necessary people are losing. The ACC is going to get 3 teams in the playoff. And then we have this happen, and it's pandemonium, and it's depression, and it's like, oh my gosh, why can't we have nice things? That's like where my mind is right now. And we'll talk about all these different games and whatever, but it's chaotic. It really is. And ultimately, that's why you love college football, right? Like, you never know. You really never know, what's going to happen. And I mean, you look at I saw Bud Elliott talking about this on Twitter. You look at the 9 conference championship games, all of them are within a touchdown. I mean, it's going to be chaos.
Wow,
it's going to be
wild.
insane. I cannot wait to see it. It was a good rivalry week. Not for me, not for you, but it was a good rivalry week. And there was some fun stuff that happened.
Yeah, Mac and I are we're going to get into Carolina Clemson, and we're just going to be really honest with you, because we both are heartbroken and depressed. But also, Clemson's in the ACC championship. We will get to that. But Mac, you mentioned how we can't have nice things. And of course, you're referring to Clemson's just absolutely falling apart against South Carolina. But we do get certain nice things because we are sponsored by Roback. Okay, so we do have that going for us, Mac. And that, you got to count your blessings during these trying times. Use our code GMPOD for 20% off. Mac, their Black Friday through Cyber Monday sale, it's going to end tonight. So make sure you get over there and use that code. But also, as we continue through December and you still want to buy gifts, they will no longer have their Black Friday sale, but you'll get 20% off using GM Pod. So go check it out. As you would guess, Eric McLean, I was in my jogger suit, my Tempo Performance jogger suit for, I'm going to say 80% of Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah. So that's just where I was.
Here's the big question. How many more do you plan on ordering? Like, are you going full rainbow? Are you going every color imaginable? What's your plan?
At least two. I'm getting a full gray, a full navy, and then we'll go from there. But I could wear those every day. And once I get honestly, enough, I just need 7, right? So I can go.
Say, why not just go 1 per day? Load up. And maybe I don't know how many colors they have. Maybe 14. Maybe you want to go 2 straight weeks of no laundry. Okay. Who knows?
I'm going to consider it. I will check my wallet and get back to you.
Perfect. I need to check my mental and physical and emotional well-being after this game, because surprisingly, you and I were not texting during this a lot. We kind of, we're both kind of doing whatever.
We're too stressed.
This game was crazy, KG, and not really a good crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it here. Number 15, South Carolina beats number 12, Clemson, 17-14. Mac, I am going to pat myself on the back for a second, because we can pull the tape. We can go back to when we were talking Clemson, Carolina. And I said, I felt like the biggest factor in this game was Lenoris Sellers when the play breaks down.
Yeah.
And oh my God. I mean, that was their entire offense. That was all 17 points. Like that, that's what South Carolina did. Lenoris Sellers ended up with 166 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 16 carries. He had more rushing yards than Clemson total. So we saw what he did there. I mean, he's incredible. I'm not trying to take anything away from Lenora Sellers. He was fantastic. And to come back after throwing that pick in the red zone, not be rattled as just a redshirt freshman, I think I speak for all Clemson fans when I say I do not want to see that guy for another 3 years. And that is going to be the reality, which, is tough. But Mac, okay, I'm asking you, as someone who played the game, at what point do you just say, you almost get in a prevent defense, but I'm not talking about the secondary. I'm talking about the front seven. Like, how do you just kind of make a circle around this guy? You don't even really need to rush him, right? Because that was the issue. He was throwing off tackles like it was nobody's business. He was more slippery than a slip and slide. Like you couldn't even get him. So why don't you do something like that, Mac? And basically you have to force him to beat him with your arm because they really couldn't do that.
Right. Well, here's the deal.
Help me figure this out.
I'm not sure on your availability, and I know you have some really seasonal commitments that you have, and of course, sweet baby Jacob. But if you're up for defensive coordinator, like taking that over, what you just said, I mean, that probably going into the game would have been my adjustment. Like after Citadel, basically seeing that and seeing what this guy's done all year. Yeah, that was probably the most disheartening part, because again, if not to discredit us, but if you and I know that going into a game, surely someone who watched tape for who knows how long knew that going into a game. And it was, again, just kind of disheartening, frustrating, annoying, maddening, every possible feeling you can have to it. That's what it was. And, okay, great. They, when Clemson dialed up pressures, awesome. They got home, didn't finish, weren't able to get him on the ground. So there's a little bit of, players do your job. There's a little bit of let's call better plays. There's a little bit of let's adjust and make things happen. And there's also a little bit of he's a monster and he's a really good player. And congratulations to them. Congratulations to Coach Beamer, Lenoris. I mean, it was fun to watch from just a viewing perspective and like, dang, this dude is good. Like just strictly from a fandom. Now from my orange and purple heart, it is shattered and I'm slowly putting it back together. But yeah, I mean, that would have been my game plan. No question. From the first quarter on, when you saw that guy not getting tackled, not going down, two things that I would have adjusted immediately. Number one, I would have sat down with the defensive line and said, get to this point and stop.
Yes.
Do not keep going.
Contain.
Stop. Contain. Keep him right here. Peter Woods, go forward as much as you want. Everybody else, keep him here. Be ready. Second adjustment is 1, 2, whatever you feel like you can do. Linebacker, probably Sammy Brown is what I would do. Sit here and watch him. Follow him. Do not get blocked at the line of scrimmage spying by an offensive guard. You can't do that. If you're a spy, you're not supposed to be able to get pass blocked. That's unbelievable. So I really thought that those two things right then and there were outrageous. Now, look, if you want to heat them up, got it. But you have to have some insurance behind. You have to have something ready if he and when he, obviously, broke contain. And we just didn't see that. We didn't see it. And again, you have to give him credit. He broke 8
for sure.
tackles.
It's
most
insane.
I've ever seen. I mean, he was untackable. Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, combine them into one. That's Lenora Sellers. That's what we saw on that day. And again, I do not want to discredit him because he was fantastic creating and running the football, which is great. And he won his team the game, walked off. I mean, it was awesome, for him and to see that. But, just the lack of adjustment there defensively from Clemson was really disturbing. And again, all the other things I've already rattled off.
Yeah, I think you said it well, Mac. And I think everyone would kind of agree with that. And I do think you have to give Lenora Sellers credit. I mean, he was incredible. This D-line has been playing well as of late for Clemson. And to only sack him 3 times, I think you said that he basically broke 18 tackles. I mean, he was so elusive. That was wild to watch. And in the end, as a defense, you gave up 17 points. Like you should be able to win the game giving up 17 points. Clemson, it felt like they moved the ball pretty easily, but the points just didn't come. Finishing in the red zone, of course, you have at the beginning of the game not trying to kick a field goal. And I know I tweeted, Mac, I said, are we just done taking the points in college football ever again? And that was more of an overall statement, kind of also relating to Georgia Tech, Georgia, which we're going to get into. I know that Clemson's special teams are bad and they basically don't have a kicker, but it's that early in the game. Maybe you at least try it, see what happens. You might need him later, which was how it was looking towards the end on that final drive. But I thought, for me, Mac, that was just an overall critique of college football as a whole. Going for it, like on 4th and 2 in the first quarter, when you can just take the points. I know what the analytics say, but I feel like sometimes you just got to take points. Am I crazy, Mac? Do you think that was really just because the field goal kicking situation at Clemson is so disastrous right now?
Probably. I mean, that was probably in the back of their mind. And again, I don't think it's a kicker thing. I think it's a protection thing. I mean, I think the kicker is going to be good, and I think he is good. It's just a matter of can you hold your gap and protect for him with that? And probably, I mean, that probably is, what's in the back of mind. And it's one of those things where you just drove the ball 90 yards. And here's the deal too. Like, this is why football is so hard. If that kick gets blocked, we are screaming at the top of our lungs, why the heck did you not go for that?
Right. Sure.
But overall picture, football deal, in this type of game, I think everyone knew it was going to be a dogfight. I think, and this is just, again, this is generalities. I think everyone knew that it was going to be a close game and points were at a premium. Very much so unlike Miami and Syracuse, which we'll talk about in a second. Where you do not kick the field goal. You have to go for that, and we'll get into that. But in this one, 1 point matters. 3 points certainly matter, and 7 is at a premium. If you kick that then, you're driving down the field with a much different mindset, with the mindset to win. We just need to get in field goal range. And you're not, maybe panicking, thinking, you have to do that or you have to score a touchdown. Again, there's so many different things. And as you said, the at times felt like the offense was marching down the field. I thought Cade Klubnik played exceptional. I thought that the offensive line played out of their minds.
They did.
They did. Rush defensive ends.
Gave up 1 sack.
Sniff, and that was a blitzing linebacker, which it was a bad miss. It should have been picked up, but it wasn't on the left guard. But the defensive ends didn't sniff Cade. I mean, they weren't anywhere near that guy. They were super highly talented. Everybody was really worried about. I'll say this: Kennard, 0 sacks on Clemson ever. He's played football for like 5 years, never sacked Clemson quarterback. So anyway, I'm attacking kids. He's a great player. He's going to get drafted and make way more money than I've ever made. Shout out to that guy. But anyway. There was just a lot of that as an offensive lineman, I took to heart, and it hurts my feelings. Kind of challenge our guys. With that said, I thought that there were a couple of moments that Cade Klubnik could have solidified himself as a legend, that he could have solidified himself as one of the best in the country, and he wasn't able to take advantage of that. There was a Bryant Wesco slant that might have been a touchdown that he missed. There was the deep shot on 3rd and whatever that I hated. It just didn't make sense. I get maybe one-on-one, no safety help, but we got to convert. We've got to get this going. And of course, to finish the game, like the drive was awesome. And he was making great decisions, really nice placement of the football, getting it to his guys. And then it's just like, it's just crazy how it happens. It wasn't a bad decision.
It was like old Cade, trying to do too much.
Not quite. Yeah, the too much part. And really I'm wanting him to get to a place where he just isn't yet. And he will be. He will be next year. If he stays, which I assume he will, and continue to grow, he will be. He will be that final.
Dabo literally said it on our podcast last week that he's coming back. So
right. So, and I assume, he could jump in the portal, do whatever he wants. Who knows? But I assume he'll be back. Just in that situation, there's 13 seconds left when the play, I guess, stopped. Just throw the ball away. Just launch it out of bounds. I thought when I watched it, it was more of like he was way farther and throwing back to the middle to Phil. It wasn't. It was a fine decision for the moment. It just wasn't a good pass. And you're throwing it to a guy with 2 shoulder braces on that's probably exhausted. And it's behind him. And a running back, then it's behind him. And so I'm not super critical on the decision. I just would have rather in the moment understanding a lot like Cam, a little bit differently, like throw the ball away, don't get sacked, fumble, game over against Georgia Tech a handful of weeks ago. Just launch it out of bounds. Let's get to the next play. You still have a timeout. You're in field goal range. Don't lose the game. manage the game. And that's where these exceptional guys, Cade Klubnik, Cam, Ward, are their game breakers, but it's also okay to, in moments, always be a game manager. And so it's so tough. And for it to end that way sucks. And it was a fun game, really. And I love Shane Beamer. I respect the heck out of him. I hate that he's at that program. But you have to give him credit. They're on fire. And I think they deserve to be in the playoff. And they're playing like a team that nobody wants to see. When you look at how they lost, and again, this is about to come into something I do not want it to be, some type of Gamecock love show. The way they lost to LSU, where that game was taken away from them by referees, outrageous. Alabama game right there on the brink, probably could have, should have won. This team legitimately could be 10-1 playing in an SEC championship. And I think the committee should look at that. That's why we have humans, not computers. And they should make that decision to get those guys in the playoff. The last thing I'll say is there was some really, and again, I could talk about this for hours, and we need to hurry up. You got a baby, I got a baby, we got stuff to do. There were some coaching decisions that I did not love. We already addressed the kick. It seems like it never fails, KG, that you're in a place where you can take hold of a situation and some silly, borderline dumb decision is made to run a star meet up in the middle reverse kickoff play that loses you the game. You don't go to a playoff in 2022. A double reverse.
That was so bad.
In a time that felt so out of place, so out of whack. You have the momentum. You have everything going for. What are you running it for? Fumble, boom, touchdown. And it's just like, what are we thinking? Why? What's the purpose? And even if some people are saying, well, if he didn't get his foot stepped on and if the guy blocks here is good, it's a great play. Even then, I would be pissed and annoyed that it's being ran. Just play. Just go. And I'll never forget back in, I think it was maybe 2013, we're playing at their house. We're running the ball 7 yards a carry. Out of nowhere, we call a double reverse pass. Sammy Watkins throws an interception, game over. We lost all momentum. Over. It's just like weird, silly stuff. Yeah, like super PTSD, super weird stuff. Running toss sweep to a 230-pound running back yet again to the boundary. It's just, I don't know, KG. I don't know who's calling it. I don't know whose responsibility is. It's frustrating. It doesn't make sense. Get Jay Haynes in the freaking game.
Maffa's obviously not healthy. I think we'd all agree.
Close. Not even close.
And so that also makes. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
It also makes the decision to throw him that ball on the final possession even more interesting. Yeah. I thought we saw. I have two more thoughts, and then we need to get on to Syracuse and to Georgia Tech, because that game was insane. I thought we saw a classic run, punt. That's what I've always used to call it when we did radio. Run, punt from Dabo in the fourth quarter, just so conservative. And it's ironic because the reason you do that is to avoid the pick you threw on the final drive. So it's just like, I guess, choose one or the other. And then I am not saying this to be mean. I am not saying this to be a sassy tater, South Carolina fans. But Mac, if I know anything about the committee and if I know anything about college football, mark my words, they will put Alabama in over South Carolina, specifically because Bama beat South Carolina. So I think it really helps Carolina if Clemson goes and beats SMU, but and I don't think it's right. I would put South Carolina in over Alabama, but the head-to-head and the bias, like Alabama's going to find their way in there. So that's just my 2 cents on that situation, Mac.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think, again, we did a little vending right there. So thank you for listening.
We needed that. We needed that.
There was a little emotion in there, some analysis, but a lot of emotion. I'll finish it by saying all this. Clemson's playing for an ACC championship. Yeah. Clemson controls all of their own destiny. This is playoff football. It's already been that way, but this, really, you lose, you're done type of situation where it's a whole new season. We've seen wild card teams in the NFL go on to win Super Bowls. Not predicting that, just saying it's a whole new world when you get into the playoff. You just have to be good that day. That's it. And so what can this team do? It's going to be fascinating to see how do they take advantage of that. Are they mature enough? Are the coaches ready enough? Are they good enough as a whole to come together and do this because you're playing a very, very good team. And, I'll get my I'm like broken ribs, broken legs staying here on the ground right now. Just got trampled. You ain't playing for a championship, Carolina. See you later. And I guarantee at the end of the day, Clemson might be in the playoff and you might be home watching. And that's going to be fascinating. And people will riot if that happens. That's my only trash talking that I get to do none of because you beat our head in. But anyway, great job, Carolina, Clemson. Here we go. The Tigers won't die. Tigers won't die. 3 chances, KG. I've never seen anything like it. 3 times they get this opportunity. Can you make the most of it? Let's see. Let's find out.
And this is why I maintain that Clemson should never leave the ACC. But anyway, let's get on to Syracuse and Miami. Syracuse. Whew. What a game for Syracuse. What a season. 9-3 for the Orange. They beat number 6 Miami 42-38. Mac, it's the same old issues that we've seen from Miami every single week. Sometimes they pull it out, sometimes they don't. And it's kind of the same old story for Miami. The defense just wasn't there. I mean, this is a really good Syracuse offense, but still, you couldn't slow them down, especially in the second half, especially honestly in quarters 2 through 4. Another situation of Miami starting off pretty well, but then letting a team back in a game. Miami with 9 penalties, that hurt them. Some questionable decisions down the stretch. We can talk about kicking that field goal on the final drive, Mac. But I think it just all shows, and I hate to say this because, we love Miami fans have been great to the pod. We appreciate you guys, and we know how much you care. I think it's just the bottom line is Miami they weren't good enough. They weren't good enough to do what they were supposed to do and do what they needed to do.
For sure.
I feel like they still have an outside shot at the playoff. I doubt it. Crazy things could happen, but just another really disappointing loss for Miami.
It's going to be fascinating to see where they are, in the next couple days here. How far do they fall? But I have to imagine they're at least or at best at 12. And unless all chaos ensues, you're probably on the outside looking in. And, it is unfortunate. You have this super team that you feel really good about. You have an unbelievable quarterback, I think the best in the country. You've got playmakers everywhere, and you come up short, not playing for a conference championship. Lose a couple of games, that probably you shouldn't, to be quite honest. But we thought there was a chance here. We also thought we'd see unbelievable quarterback and wide receiver play, and check. That was so much fun to watch that. The fact that these stat lines are virtually identical is awesome, just because these guys are so talented throwing the football. Both had 36 attempts. Cam had 1 less completion. Kyle had 30 more yards and 1 more touchdown. I mean, it's just nuts.
0 picks.
From just zero, either one of them never made really a mistake. Just from strictly a consumer, no fandom, it was like, this is high-level offensive football, and I love to see it. And I love to see the execution, the crazy catches, diving touchdowns, great play design, running the ball when they need. I thought both, Syracuse and Miami ran the ball when they needed to, especially to ice the game. Pena had that, 11, 12-yard run to just ice it, game over, just kind of demonstrating how great of a player he is. Xavier Restrepo has 150 yards. Now, he had that really game-changing fumble, which I hate, and that sucks. But he's such a great player and has been such a joy for us to watch and to cover. But give credit to Syracuse. Fran Brown, unbelievable, shouting out Dabo, saying you're welcome, got you to the chip.
Hilarious.
What are you going to do with it? We're going to take care. Hey, Fran, I got some stuff coming for you. Big thank you from us. It's coming your way. You see that in the mail soon. But just a great job by him. As you mentioned, Syracuse this year fully flipped that page. Everything we talked about. November, what's up? They're balling in November. They're doing their thing, playing at a super high level. I can't wait to see what this does from them momentum-wise, building for the future. You obviously got to go get a quarterback. Got to go do it again. You hit an awesome one-year wonder with Kyle McCord, and you proved you can make it happen. And this system, these players, this buy-in, all these alpha dogs that they have and that they have, kind of come in, and some that were there and continue to blossom. There's a blueprint for success. And, if he can wrap his arms around, that area, that northeastern area of just some ballers, that Jersey area for sure, look out for Syracuse. As he said, they're back. And I can't wait to see it. If he gets to 10 wins, oh my gosh, what an accomplishment. What an accomplishment.
Just an incredible first year for Fran Brown. You and I both felt it when we interviewed him in August for our preseason series. It was just, this guy's different.
That we liked.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And of course, you go get Kyle McCord, and Kyle McCord just explodes, an incredible year, and all the credit to him. But this also shows, if you're Syracuse, that you can be a portal landing spot for a good quarterback out there. And of course, same for Miami, because you did that with Cam
For
Ward too.
sure.
You
No doubt.
resurrected Cam Ward. Like, both these guys are going to end up being much higher draft picks than they would have before they came to you, which is big.
No question. No question. Which you love to see, and great for development, all those different things. I will like to throw this little shade out there too, that on a day where Kyle McCord upsets the number
Yes.
6 team in the country and balls, his former guys sucked and looked terrible and could have used Kyle McCord. So big full circle moment. Absolutely love to see that. Shout out to Kyle for being a dog and betting on himself, and Fran Brown for having all that confidence really in him. So things we love to see for $100, please, KG.
Yeah, for sure. And Mac, I also want to give credit to Syracuse and their fans. That place was loud. From all they were saying on the broadcast and just kind of the discussions. You had some false start penalties for Miami, 9 penalties for Miami overall. The Syracuse fans showed up, and it feels like they're completely back behind this program. The other thing I want to say is I feel like Pena is one of the more underrated players in this league. We've talked about him on this show, and I always take him on underdog because he's like a Restrepo kind of player in that he's just
They're the
consistent.
same player. They're the same player.
But he was fantastic. 6 catches for 128. Jackson Meeks had some crazy plays for Syracuse. Mac, I want to ask about the final drive for Miami. Kicking the field goal, taking the points. As someone who said, take the points earlier on the show, I don't think I meant it in that scenario, Mac. I think the difference is the way Syracuse was moving the ball. I don't think, as we've talked about all year, I don't think you can bet on your defense.
No.
I think you've got to win or lose the game with Cam Ward on the field, not with him off of it.
Correct. 100%. And here's the deal. Like, situations matter too. I get analytics, and Coach Rick said this the other day, or on the show Saturday night. It can also be used as a cop out of, well, we did what the book said. We did what the analytic. Yeah. We just did it. We did what everybody does. Man, feel the game. That's why you're the head coach. That's why you're the guy. That's why you're on the ground. Not some book that doesn't even know what the heck has happened in any type of situation, any type of momentum, any type of feel. Your defense hasn't been great all season. It's been extremely inconsistent, has had flashes, 100%, but you weren't stopping them all day, especially after the first quarter. Why in the world would you rely on that at the end of the game? And guess what? They couldn't stop you either. So go for it. Have the best player in the world with the football in his hand, make something happen. And so I didn't like it at all. I hated the fact that you go and kick there. And guess what? Even if you don't get it, they're on the 6-yard line. And maybe your defense will do a little bit better there.
Great point.
Who knows? And so I thought that was pretty disappointing. I didn't like it at all. And kudos to Cuse making it happen, though. So we'll see. Like you said, both teams have to reload. Really great season by both. I know there was much more aspirations and goals for Miami, but at the end of the day, you're building, you're getting better, and this is part of the process. You got to go through it. You got to go through the process. It doesn't just happen overnight.
All right, Mac, we're going to roll through the rest of these games, but we do need to spend some good quality time with Georgia Tech. What an epic football game. Number 7, Georgia beats Georgia Tech 44-42 in 8 overtimes. I find it weird counting every 2-point conversion as an overtime, but whatever. I guess that's what we do now. Georgia Tech outgained Georgia. Haynes King was a monster. You and I were saying that if he's not healthy, you got to go with Aaron Philo. And Brent Key said he's healthy. He's going to go. Obviously, Haynes King was beat up throughout the game, but he was throwing it pretty well. You had every chance in the world back. And there's so many different things we can talk about with this game, and feel free to go wherever. I just want to ask you this question. And this is kind of going back to the discussions we've been having. When you score at the end of regulation and you're Georgia Tech and Haynes King is beat up, he's been targeted, which wasn't called. Your secondary's dropping like flies, right? Jamal Haynes was limping off the field at one point. Why don't you go for 2? You're on the road. You're in this hostile environment. All these types of things. I'm not a coach, and hindsight's 2020. I think I would have gone for 2 in that situation.
Yeah, I would 100% too. That was right. That was the last touchdown to get it
Yes,
to
it
overtime.
was. It was a touchdown that tied it up, and Brent Key immediately put one finger up, like he wasn't even thinking about
Yeah.
it. He was like, "We're going, like, let's go to overtime."
Right.
I just thought
Right.
that was odd.
Yeah. I think I for sure go to 2, and I can't remember. I'm assuming that was the last one to go to overtime, but there might
It was.
even have been another one where maybe they had to go to 2 after that. Anyway, yeah, I would have gone for 2, 1,000%. Walk it off. There's no expectation. Your team's tired. This team has all the momentum, rallying back, scoring, 21 points in the fourth quarter. Let's do it right now. And again, understanding the format, if we do go back and forth, you need 27,000 2-point plays. Let's just use the great one right now.
Yes.
Let's use it. Let's use that one.
Mac,
and so
I understand why you were okay. You're right. The end of the game, the end of regulation was Georgia scored. Georgia Tech couldn't score. I'm talking about the first overtime. That's what we're talking about here. Georgia scores, kicks the extra point. Georgia Tech matches, go for 2. That's what we're referring to.
So it's the first overtime. Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's what I thought it was. I totally agree. In the game, you don't get it. So it's all good. It's all good. I think you go all for it, but still, I mean, they were that close. I mean, it looked like an okay decision, but I just let's get the momentum that we have. Yeah. Let's try to salvage it all and make it happen there. I thought there was a bunch of crazy things, and honestly, I hate, in the moment I for sure was doing it, but I hate relying and blaming referees, but that was a blatant targeting. I mean, his head's down. There were
some terrible
makes
calls.
Contact. Yeah, really, really weird. And it felt like this really suspicious timing. But again, I don't want to take away from any of that. So anyway, at the end of the day, unbelievable effort by Georgia Tech. We had a really good suspicion that it would end up kind of like this. They ran the ball all over those dogs, 260 yards. And again, Haynes King, a warrior. The toughest dude, maybe in college football, for sure toughest quarterback. 300 yards with a bum shoulder. I don't know how he got to that point, but he did. 110 rushing yards, 3 rushing TDs, 5 total TDs. Put it all out there on the line. And it's going to be fascinating to see what Georgia Tech does next year and what this quarterback situation ends up being. Because you got a guy that probably super confident, walked off a game winner thinking he should play right now. And you also have a really savvy vet that's good. And I think he reminded everybody how good he is. It was a little up and down this year because of injury and because of availability. But he's a baller. So my biggest thing, advice-wise, Aaron Philo, be patient. Take your time. If old buddy at Texas can do that, Arch Manning, surely you can do that. So we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating thing, KG, but we'll see. We'll see. Great game. Major shout out. Do have to give props for Georgia again. I'm about to throw up doing all this SEC propaganda, but the fact that they came storming back 21 points in the fourth quarter, that's some championship DNA to be able to do that. And it was impressive, to say the least.
Georgia's the most inconsistent. They're the most inconsistent, most talented team in the country. I guess that's the way to put it. Yeah. And Georgia Tech just didn't have enough to close it out. I felt for Brent Key. I mean, obviously, in the end, once he's further removed from this game, he'll be able to realize what they did and how much of a building block this can be for his program. But he had, it's just, I feel for him. I know he's going to be thinking about that game every day for the next however many days.
Hey,
but
let me just tell you. I texted him after the game, and I mean, that dude, it probably felt honestly like he just got done with a fight. I mean, that's probably what it mentally, physically, what it felt like.
Yeah. And I think we already knew this, but he showed even more people that he is the guy for Georgia Tech. There's no one else that needs to be coaching Georgia Tech but Brent Key. All right, Matt.
Here's the deal. Georgia Tech, you better ante up and you better pay him, because if not, he's going to be the guy somewhere else, because he is a great coach. He will be, I don't know, I don't think there's any real threat, kind of right now, but it's early and some jobs might open. He'll be on the top of a list for a lot of people. So ante it up. And this is going to be fun too, KG, because I think there's some cool opportunity for us to really kind of preview, or just like a distant preview for next year that we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. The ACC has some promise. If we can keep some of these players, some of these coaches, next year's going to be really, really fun. And we'll talk about that later, but it's going to be cool.
Also, Georgia Tech fans, we see you. We see you wanting some more Georgia Tech content. So we got you. We can give you that. We can provide. Okay, Mac, before we get to our speed round, let's just talk real quickly about SMU. Number 9, SMU beats Cal 38-6. Fernando Mendoza did not play due to illness. So once you realized he wasn't playing, it was like, okay, this game's kind of a wrap. SMU handled business. And when you think about it, Mac, as SMU heads to Charlotte to see Clemson, I know Clemson had Citadel thrown in there, but SMU's been able to, for lack of a better term, kind of chill the past couple of weeks. Yes, they've played games, but there haven't been brutal games. Clemson had the brutal Pitt game, Citadel, and then this one, just kind of from a time on your body perspective. But overall, SMU, I mean, what can you say? Undefeated ACC season, Rhett Lashley Coach of the Year for sure in my mind. Just the one loss to BYU, but that was before KJ was truly your starting quarterback. Heading to Charlotte in year 1 in the ACC, it couldn't be better. It couldn't be better for SMU.
No, there's no question. They finished so strong. I mean, after that BYU loss, I mean, they've just been demolishing people and really fun. I know the Duke game sprinkled in there. I know the dogfight with Boston College is sprinkled in there.
But you won.
They have been destroying people, and it's been really fun to watch. And I think this team is getting better and better. Kind of as we see them each and every week. And man, what an opportunity! And honestly, like we'll talk about this more on Friday for sure. But I love the fact that now they have to play Clemson for obvious reasons and wanting to see that. But for them to come in and potentially take the crown and not play Clemson is kind of like, did you really do it? Maybe. Like if you win the SEC and you don't beat Georgia, did you really, win the SEC or Bama, a couple of years ago?
Sure.
So the fact that they get the king in Charlotte, is awesome, for them and legitimate, making that case and, kind of all those different things. So I love that. And, what an opportunity for them to continue to make that happen. Very strong run. The KJ, all those guys, I mean, they look great. And I can't wait to see it in person again, against my Tigers and just see what happens there.
And we will preview that game a lot this week coming up, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I think it's going to be very important to see where SMU is ranked in this playoff poll on Tuesday. Same for Clemson, but even more important for SMU. If Clemson loses the ACC title, they're not getting in the playoff. If SMU loses, I think they still should be in. Of course, you got to see what else happens around the country, but if they can move up to maybe 7, somewhere around there, pre-ACC championship game, then you feel better. But that, to me, that's going to be really interesting to see where they are.
I think it should be probably higher than that. And I already said last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, they should be higher than Miami. They're the best team in the league. And let's make a little self-correction here, College Football Playoff Committee. Put them where they need to be. They need to be 6 or better, quite frankly. So we'll see if that's the case. And you're right. I think there's some insurance there. The way they've played, who they are. You should not be negatively affected because you have to play one more game. With Ohio State sitting at home, just got embarrassed by Michigan. Not embarrassed. It was a great game against Oregon. And the fact that they just get a freebie, they're in the playoff. Yep, good job. Secured it. You're in.
Their birthright, man.
Outrageous. Right. It's crazy.
And what's interesting too is Clemson beating Carolina would have really helped SMU. Because you knock Carolina out of the situation, assuming Miami loses, which is what they did.
I would assume if Clemson beats them, and again, we'll talk about this more. I think they fall to like 11. I think they're in.
Let's
hope.
I
think they're in. Yeah.
What if they try to put Bama and South Carolina in there? Okay. Let's not worry about that right now, Mac. You know what I want to worry about? I just want to sit here and reflect about the amazing Thanksgiving that I threw at my house. Mac, I made, with the help from my dear friends at Ingles, I made this amazing mac and cheese, gluten-free, and it was fantastic. I made stuffing, did not make that gluten-free because that's virtually impossible, and then made some green beans. We had ham, we had turkey, we had potato. It was so good. I got to be honest, I'm very proud of myself, and I want to thank Ingles for all their help and support along the way.
Come on. Well, let's get to a message from them real quick, and then let's jump into the speed round.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Mac, let's get into our speed round. Let's start with one of the teams we are most proud of for a variety of reasons, the Louisville Cardinals. Thank you, Louisville. You did it. You beat Kentucky 41-14. You dominated Kentucky. Kentucky has so many issues, but of course they almost beat Georgia and beat Ole Miss, but whatever. Great win for Louisville. That's what we wanted to see, Mac. An 8-4 finish for the Cards. Should have been 9-3. Stanford, we know, blah, 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 but still a very good year for Louisville.
Yeah, it really was. And again, there's a bunch of what if, and I'm sure Cardinal fans are sick and just thinking what could have been. But you beat Clemson for the first time ever. Unbelievable. You got back in this daggum rivalry and beat the Wildcats, which I just know everybody is super excited about. I was getting videos of the stadium. It was empty. It was red everywhere, after all the Kentucky fans left. So great job. Isaac Brown is a freak. I mean, he's going to be the freshman of the year. He's going to be the offensive freshman of the year. He might be a first-team running back when the All-ACC ballots come out in the next couple of days. He's good. And you got that in the future. Duke Watson as well. You got a 1-2 punch that put up with anybody in the country next year. Let's go to work. These guys are going to be really freaky. So can't wait to see it. Great momentum. But you probably got to go find another quarterback. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I assume Tyler's moving on. He's 32 years old. Assume he's going to the next level. He's married. But just a great job. Really great finish. And again, beating Kentucky, getting over that hump, huge deal.
A lot of teams going to be looking for a quarterback, perhaps in the portal, Mac. Virginia Tech beats Virginia 37-17. Virginia Tech becomes bowl eligible with the win. All your quarterbacks were hurt, so you go with Pop Watson. And Pop Watson was good, Mac. You were there for the game. It was just another dominating rivalry game for Virginia Tech.
That's what they do. Pop looked great. Going to be interesting. Again, we talk about teams having to make decisions. Right. And maybe the players make the decision for you, but it looks like there's a bit of a future there. And this is a young cat that I know a lot of people are really excited about, just what he's going to bring, what he is, who he is. He's a very confident young man. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. And Bashal Tootin to go out the way he did, his journey, and to see how good of a player he is. And also APR. Shout out to APR and Donovan Ezeraku, two leading sack masters in the country. Donovan's number one with, I think, like 16 and a half, 13 and a half, something like that. And APR is second there, but really, really impressive for them. That was Virginia Tech football. And every time I go there, KG, I am blown away with the fan support.
Always.
They are insane. Top of the corners filled, loud as all get out for a 5-6 football team. Let's get good, Hokies. I want to see that place ranked in the country, undefeated. Come on. Let's figure out a way to get there. And I think they can. It's just a matter of taking that next step. And maybe this is a learning year. We'll talk about this more. Again, we got to get through this thing. There was a lot of expectation. Virginia Tech came nowhere close to meeting those. Maybe this is a little bit telling of what went wrong, what happened this season, how can we fix that moving forward so it never happens again.
You could kind of copy and paste that for NC State, but NC State beats North Carolina 35-30 in Mac Brown's last game. How all of that has been handled has been very weird. I think we will probably dive more into Mac Brown and the whole situation when we talk about UNC with their bowl game, and even when we do a UNC under review episode, and once we figure out who their next head coach is. But NC State, it seems recently they've found a way in this rivalry. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. CJ Bailey, he played well. He managed the game well. He did have the one pick, but overall, it just kind of felt like NC State was going to find a way to do this. UNC, since the announcement of Mac Brown not being asked back, it feels like things have been off with that team.
Yeah, it really does. And that stinks, to have a distraction of that nature, but you got to give credit. To North Carolina State, making it happen. As you mentioned, 22 points, overcoming Amarian Hampton is a monster. Hand it to him, pitch it to him, pass it to him. He is such a freak, and I can't wait to see what he does at the next level, KG.
Yeah, he just can't wait because he's phenomenal. Probably one of the more underrated, just because people don't talk about him as much, players in ACC history, you could say. Duke survives. They beat Wake Forest to finish 9-3. Wow. That walk-off touchdown to Jordan Moore was absolutely crazy. It kind of felt like Duke didn't have a lot of business winning this game, but they found a way to do it. They're state champs. They beat every team in North Carolina. They finished 9-3. Heck of a first year for Manny Diaz.
Unbelievable. First time since 2013 that they've beaten all of them. Not sure if they played them every year since then, but getting it done, that's a big accomplishment. That's a really big deal. And Coach Diaz gets that. He understands rivalries. He understands the importance of beating those guys, and he did it, which is super impressive. The fact that this team and Syracuse have an opportunity to win double-digit games, that's exactly what we talked about. I remember back, didn't think it'd be those two teams, but the fact that they did it, that's what we need. We need 4 to 5 teams in the ACC fighting and with a chance to win double-digit games, and we have that, which is very exciting. Duke, a team that, again, you're going to lose a handful of guys this year. Some are really, really good players, but you also have some youth, and you have a quarterback that I think people want to play with, want to be with, and want to be around. So going to be fascinating to see the encore in year 2 for Coach Manny Diaz.
Boston College beats Pitt 34-23.
Sneaky finish for BC.
Yes, I was going to say absolute tank job for Pittsburgh, and then a sneaky upward finish for Boston College, winning their last 2 against North Carolina and Pitt. Pitt quarterback injuries just continue to pile up, but BC, I like what they have with Grayson James. I think that's a guy you can move forward with, Mac.
Hey, he operates the system and operates it well. Really fun to see it. Interesting to see what the future holds there as well. Just again, with these quarterbacks, if you got one, you feel great. If you're looking for one, maybe it's interesting. And then you get to the bottom of the barrel here with sweet Stanford ruining dreams and losing to San Jose State.
Yeah, that was terrible. They did hire Andrew Luck as their general manager, so maybe we'll get Andrew Luck on the podcast.
What does that mean? Is he also bringing his NFL salary with him to pay players?
Let's hope. The irony with all of this is that you forgot Florida State even played. Florida beat Florida State 31-11. Oh, you wanted to, we're going to put Florida State under Stanford losing to San Jose State? Okay, cool. That's amazing. Florida State season's over. Let's rejoice and be glad.
Thank you. It is the first of all, there's a couple. It is the worst ACC season ever in the history of ACC football. It is the worst decline from where you were to where you are ever in the history of ACC football. And you hired Gus Malzahn as your offensive coordinator.
I don't know what to make of that. I guess, do you know what my first thought with that was? It made me think of UNC hiring Gene Chizik. And I was like, why? It feels like I know Gene Chizik was out of the game much longer than Gus Malzahn was at UCF, but why? Like, we're going back to something that worked 10 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems
funny
weird.
You thought of that. Those two guys are like connected at the hip at Auburn.
They are.
There you go.
We'll get into more of that. The coaching changes, that will be a staple of the offseason. But SMU Clemson content coming at you this week, Mac.
Yeah, cannot wait. It's championship season, baby. Regular season's over. Hard to imagine. Thank you guys for sticking with us all year long, rolling through it. It's just absolutely crazy. But this is going to be some fun stuff. This playoff, this ACC championship game, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see it. As KG, you just said, we've got some great content for you coming all week. And then we get into it. We find out who's playing. We find out who's going to be in this thing and what it's going to all be like. So appreciate you guys always tuning in. Subscribe to our channel. Turn on the alerts. I just found out you can turn on alerts for when we post content. It'll tell you so you don't have to miss a thing. Jump in the comments. Tell us about this week. What do you think? Where were we on some stuff? Are you with us? Are you against us? Whatever it is.
And Mac, also jump on Underdog Fantasy, use our code. I mentioned that I use Pena from Syracuse all the time and Restrepo, of course. Those guys would have hit for you. Use our code GMPOD for championship weekend with all these games being so close. That's going to be really fun. So make sure you use our code for that.
It is. It's going to be awesome. So we cannot wait. Again, appreciate you guys always. We'll see you later this week. Until next time, we'll see y'all.